Hello, I am Inji Huseynli from the class 10AB1, and today we are going to present our project which we made with our group members, Samra, Bakhishli, Madina, Khalilli, and me, Inji Huseynli. Um, we the title of our presentation is called Food Over Time and Space. And in this presentation, we are going to talk about the historical and geographical importance of food over time. And although we did the presentation together, we decided to separate our talking according to the subjects. Now we're starting with an interesting activity. Can you answer that? What is considered the first prepared food in mankind and when was it prepared? If you are interested in answer, we will tell it at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to talk about the Azerbaijan history. The objectives are learning about the history of Azerbaijan food and historical importance of food in Azerbaijan, and of course how Azerbaijan and Armenia conflict affected food. Azerbaijani cuisine has a rich history that developed over countries in South Caucasus region, and it was influenced by various cultures, including Turkish, Persian, and Russian. This diverse culinary tradition is known for its use of fresh and local ingredients. The fertile lands of Azerbaijan allowed for the cultivation of key crops like wheat, barley, rice, and a variety of foods and fruits and vegetables. The Caspian Sea provided an abundance of fish, which became staple in the coastal areas. Herbs and spices like saffron and sumac added unique flavors to dishes. Over time, Azerbaijani cuisine evolved, blending the flavors of the region with its own distinct character, creating a delightful and diverse culinary experience. Now, the effect of Azerbaijan-Armenia conflict on food. Uh, Although Azerbaijan cuisine is constantly tried to be adopted by our treacherous neighbors, we have really good historical facts to prove them. This food belongs to Azerbaijan. For example, Armenians think that dolma belongs to them, but let's think about it a little bit. Dolma itself is a Turkish word which means to fill, to stuff. How can they think that dolma is their food even without changing the name of the meal? Or let's take lule kebab an example. Armenians say that it belongs to them, but lule is also a Turkish word which means a part of a gun, and it is called because being long as the lule kebab. These facts are historical proof for Armenians to know that this food actually belongs to Azerbaijan.
So now I will be talking about the world history of food, and the first slide is about the food during the Middle Ages in Europe. So the meals that people ate during this era were controlled by the seasons, geography, and the religious restrictions. Like for the most people, the food supply was limited to what the nearby lands and seas could provide. So the peasants during this era, they were poor and they cooked on the open fires or the outdoor ovens made of clay or turf. And they mostly ate like simple foods that they could grow or afford. And the main foods, they were the main things like bread, stews made up of grains and soups, vegetables, and cheaper meats. They couldn't afford expensive meats. And they also couldn't afford spices, and they were often not allowed to go hunt the animals like deer or rabbits. And the upper class and nobility. So they had better food and fancier meals compared to the peasants. Their meals were small. Even though they were small, they had wider variety of flavors and exotic foods, and they used more spices and in other ingredients to make their food tastier and visually appealing. And the next slide is about the food during the World War One. So in Germany, during World War One, the rationing system in urban areas it collapsed. Like the people, they had to eat animal fodder to survive during the cold winters. And in 1914, the British people so during this World War, the British people they had better food compared to the Germans. They had better meat and better vegetables. And as the war continued, the resources they became scarce and scarce, especially in Germany. So there was a crippling shortage of food. And for the soldiers, the rations of the food it kept on decreasing until the end of the war. After this time, all of the food they could eat was turnip soup and turnip bread because that was the only product left for them. All of the other products they became scarce. And the Germans during the war, the Germans they were given large amounts of alcohol to enjoy, but the British people they were not really given too much alcohol. So, and in the first years of peace after the World War, there was there was most of the parts of Europe it suffered severe food shortages. And during the 1920s, saw the introduction of the new foods, especially fruit and vegetables. After the World War, many new food products became available in the typical household. The housewife could now finally purchase and make instant food in jars or powders that could be quickly mixed. And the wealthier households now had ice boxes or electric refrigerators, which made better storage and convenience of buying larger quantities. The next slide is about the food during the ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. So ancient Egypt. For the people who lived in these ancient times, the honey was a miracle for them. They considered honey a sacred food. And the honey was widely used, like even the lower class people, they had access to the money, which shows that the ancient Egyptians, they really produced tons of honey. And also the Egyptians, they knew that the beer was antioxidant, but it was used for nutritional causes even between the children. And the laborers, they were paid by the beer in Egypt. And the Egyptians, they made wide use of spices such as cumin, coriander, and cinnamon. And each of the spice had its own cultural or medical significance. And for example, coriander, it was something that represented romantic love. Like cumin had digestive aid, and historians they believe that huge amounts of wine was imported across all over Egypt. Some wine was brought from Mesopotamia, and the bread was a sign of hospitality and a fragrant spiritual offering. Like the Egyptians thought that by giving away bread to the poor, it would reward them in the afterlife. And they also considered pigs to be unhealthy and unsanitary, so they would not eat any pigs. And the meat was luxurious and eaten by the rich usually most of the times. All kinds of meat that they could be eaten was sheep, cow, and other types. And some fish would be considered as sacred, and some would be considered as unclean. And the onions were also sacred, even though it would be used as food. So the ancient Greece food. The people in Greece stretched till India under the influence of Alexander the Great, and there was a variety of food in their diet. The wheat was very difficult to grow in Greece due to the drought, and it was also very expensive, so bread was really scarce, and it was impossible to find during ancient Greece due to the extreme drought. Peas, chickpeas, lentils had a great importance in the Greek diet as well, but it was mostly among the lower class people. The olives were really widely used in the dishes, and it was frequently used to make olive oil. Grapes and raisins were their favorite food. They loved raisins, and they would always drink wine. The most famous drink of Greeks was kykion, which is a mix of wine, barley, goat cheese, and honey. And the goats and sheep was the most common of their livestock. They would eat them every day, the rich people. Garum was a fermented fish sauce, which was really popular and widely used even among the lower class people. And the Greeks, they also made perfume from cinnamon.
Hello, my name is Madina Khalilli and I am from the class AB1. Today I want to talk about the geography of food. Also, I would like to mention that in the slides I've given brief information, not in bullet points. Thanks for reading in advance. First, I want to speak about Italian cuisine. Italian cuisine is highly diverse and varies significantly across different regions of Italy. The geography of Italy has played a crucial role in shaping the country's culinary traditions. The country is divided into distinct regions, each with its own unique climate, terrain, and agricultural practices, influencing the ingredients and cooking styles prevalent in those areas. The diverse geography of Italy has resulted in a rich tapestry of regional cuisines, each characterized by its own set of ingredients, flavors, and cooking techniques. The use of fresh, local, seasonal ingredients is a common thread that ties Italian cuisine together. Now I want to speak about American cuisine. American cuisine is diverse and influenced by a variety of factors including geography, climate, historical migration patterns, and cultural diversity. The United States is a large and geographically varied country, and its culinary traditions reflect the availability of local ingredients and the cultural practices of different regions. Also, I put a map and brief information about that map. Now I'm heading to Chinese cuisine. Chinese cuisine is incredibly diverse. The country's vast size and varied landscapes have contributed to a wide range of ingredients, cooking methods, and flavors. Chinese food reflects a rich tapestry of regional flavors, ingredients, and cooking techniques. And the availability of resources, climate, and historical influences have played a role in shaping the diverse and dynamic culinary landscape of China. Now I want to mention the topic of which factors affected crops and animals in different areas. So there are four main factors. First is climate, temperature, different temperature. Different crops and animals have specific temperature requirements. Crops like wheat and barley thrive in cooler temperature climates, while tropical regions are suitable for crops like banana and coffee. Animals with fur or feathers are adapted to colder climates, while those with minimal insulation do better in warmer regions. Precipitation. Adequate and consistent rainfall is essential for most crops. Areas with heavy rainfall can support a variety of crops, while arid regions may require irrigation or are better suited for drought-resistant crops and animals. Seasonal variation. The length and predictability of growing seasons are determined by climate. Short growing seasons in colder regions favor hardy grains, while longer growing seasons in warmer climates are suitable for crops like corn and soybeans. For instance, tropical regions. Tropical regions with high temperatures and consistent rainfall are ideal for crops like bananas, pineapple, and cacao. These crops require warm temperatures and abundant moisture to thrive. Soil type. Different crops require specific soil types. For example, root vegetables like potatoes do well in loamy soils, while rice prefers clay soils. Soil texture and composition can affect root development, and nutrient availability. For example, volcanic soil. Volcanic soil is highly fertile due to its mineral-rich composition. It's ideal for crops like coffee, tea, and certain fruits. For example, volcanic soil in regions like Hawaii is well suited for growing Kona coffee. Third, terrain, elevation. Higher elevations generally mean cooler temperatures and differences in air pressure. This can influence the types of crops that can be grown. For example, high altitude regions might be suitable for coffee, which requires cooler temperatures. Slope and drainage. The slope of the land affects water runoff and erosion. Flat terrains are ideal for rice paddies, while slope terrains may be suitable for orchards or vineyards. Access to water. Proximity to water bodies like rivers, lakes, or oceans affects the types of crops grown. Regions near water sources can support rice cultivation, while arid regions may specialize in drought-resistant crops or livestock. For instance, hilly and rolling terrain crops. Crops that require well-draining soil can be grown on hilly or rolling terrain. Vineyards and orchards are common in such areas where water drainage is effective. Animals. These terrains may support the grazing of animals like sheep, which can navigate the slopes effectively. Last but not least, geographical location. Latitude. The distance from the equator impacts the length of days and nights and can influence the availability of sunlight, which is crucial for photosynthesis in plants. Proximity to oceans. Coastal regions tend to have milder and more consistent climates due to the moderating influence of ocean temperatures. This can be favourable for certain crops and animals. For the further instance, highland areas. Highland areas with elevations above sea level are cooler and have unique growing conditions. These regions may be suitable for crops like tea, coffee, and specific fruits. Animals. Animals adapted to high altitude environments such as yaks and llamas are raised in these areas. That's it. Thank you for watching. Um,
Thanks for watching. And finally, I want to answer the question that I asked at the beginning of the presentation. The answer is bread, which is considered to be the first prepared probably some 30,000 and more years back, and it's one of the very first food made by the mankind. I thought that this information would be interesting. And finally, here are the sources that we used for making this presentation. Thanks for your attention once again.